The guy who admittedly went to his little eugenics meeting this year with Ted Turner, Bill Gates, David Rockefeller, Oprah Winfrey, admittedly went there. He's flying his private jet to Copenhagen. They're saying, oh, he's a carbon hog. Look, the people that are running it know that it doesn't make a goddamn bit of difference how many times they travel in a private jet or on a plane or in a car. They're going there to make sure that the tax money and the system that they're setting up right now benefits them. That's why Al Gore has mansions all around the world. He travels in a private jet. Would I pay my carbon offsets? To yourself, you criminal. Oh, my God. All right, let's go to this John Lennon clip. Him, Yoko, and Dick Cavett. And even back in, I believe this is late 70s, early 80s. It might be early 80s. I'm pretty sure early 80s. Right? Early 80s? Or is it late 70s? 1980? He died in 80, so it is late 70s. So it's, what is it, 79? It's got to be like right before he dies. That's definitely, I think that's the same jacket he was shot in. All right, I'll stop kidding around. And we're going to play the clip of John Lennon denouncing population control. Go for it.
How you, as a woman, feel about overpopulation in the world and its relation to polluting the environment.
How does Yoko feel about overpopulation? As a woman, I believe. Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is not overpopulation as people believe it to be, but it's more of the balance of things. What, like food, some part of the world there's wastage of food, and in some parts, nobody has food. That kind of a balance, if that is solved, I don't think we would be worried so much about overpopulation.
I think it's a bit of a joke the way people have made this overpopulation thing into a kind of myth. I don't really believe it, I think whatever happens will balance itself out and work itself out. And it's all right for us all living saying, oh, well, there's enough of us, so we won't have any more. Don't let anybody else live. I don't believe in that. I think we've got enough food and money to feed everybody. And I think the natural balance, even though old people will last longer, I'm sure there's enough room for us, and some of them can go to the moon anyway.
You mean you think there's enough if it were
I don't believe overpopulation, I think that's just a kind of myth that the government have thrown out to keep your mind off Vietnam and Ireland and all the important subjects.
Oh, I think you're wrong about that.
Oh, I don't
And that's
care.
why you're a failed talk show host there, Dick Cavett. That's why you never did anything after this, because you're a moron. All right, let's go to Tim in Florida. Tim, you're on the line. Yes, sir.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, I got a question or a theory about the Georgia Guidestones.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you think that that's somehow like tied to the environmental movement, because it seemed like it came out like during the 70s, during that like time period.
Well, let me say this, okay? The Georgia Guidestones, for those that don't know, is this little monument that looks, pretty pagan, pretty druidic, that's up in Georgia, and it clearly states that for the balance of the Mother Earth, the goddess out there that these Wiccans and pagans believe in, it should be about 500 million people. Now, throughout history, we were pagans before the Judeo-Christian religion really broke out into the mainline. If you read the book Eco Science that I have next to me, there is an article up at InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv right now, where if you go to these subsections, they actually write that it is because of the Judeo-Christian religion that we have been polluting the planet, and we need to get back to our pagan roots. And then he goes on to say, whether we call it religion or not, it has to be based in this type of belief system. So really, our lineage is long-time pagan. Again, the Romans adapted pieces of Christianity or pieces of pagan religion into Christianity for the masses. Christ wasn't born on December 25th. That's the winter solstice. So we've had this in the backdrop for a long time. Why is it, though, that the most powerful, the biggest and baddest elitists out there believe in it? That's what's bizarre to me. We'll get into that and more on the other side, taking your calls. It's the Info Warrior. We're going to have Ryan, one of the board ops, in to really break down Call of Duty, or not, is it called? Yeah, Call of Duty 2 Modern Warfare. And it's not really the second one in the series. I believe it's the fifth in the series. But again, when I was a young man, wrapping up my college career, and by wrapping up, I mean getting ready to drop out, I was playing Call of Duty 1 and killing Nazis, and it was rather enjoyable. This is back in the PlayStation 1 days or the regular Xbox days, and you run around, and I remember the last guy being like the super Nazi, and I loved it. There is no bigger personification of evil to me than the Nazis that were openly eugenicists, openly racist, openly killers. And you Nazi sympathizers out there have to get with it, man. I watch Hitler in color, and they're showing the videos of the concentration camps that apparently don't exist in some people's minds, or they were happy fun camps where everybody was, in hot tubs and playing banjo and all this other ridiculous things I've seen on the internet. No, these people walk into the facility, they go through like a little corridor, and then the camera is sitting there waiting for them to come into the actual open concentration camp field. And as they walk in, it's just stacks of dead bodies. Them letting them know you're going to be in line or you're ending up on the stack of dead bodies. And some people just freak, man. They walk in and they look over there and they see dead bodies. And they're like, oh my God. The women especially, the women start bawling and they can't believe what they've just walked into. Look, I'm not getting on a train for anybody, whether it's FEMA or it's Northcom, or it's the National Guard. Ain't happening, brother. All right, let's continue with the phone calls. Let's go to Beastie in Michigan. Beastie, you're online.
You got me?
Yep, I got you.
All right, cool. Hey, can we give a quick lesson to InfoWarriors out there on how to source documents and information?
Sure.
Okay, there was an article my brother told me about with Obama preparing 1 million troops for civil war. And
I've looked at this article.
Baldwin had an article on it and on
Yes.
InfoWars this week.
Uh-huh.
And, along with cui bono being the most important question you can ever ask, the other thing you got to say is, you got to consider the source. Source everything. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to find who wrote that article that even Baldwin, who I respect, referenced, and you couldn't find the author. Dug and finally found it, and it was like this total hack named Sorcha Fall. I don't know if you've heard of that.
You know what? I found a separate one with the same exact thing, and I considered talking about it, but I didn't talk about it on the show because I wasn't sure how relevant it actually was or whether it was real. It's basically Obama's talking to advisors, and they're saying that he needs 1 million troops in the United States because civil unrest is going to happen. We're going to have civil war. Now, I found it on the EU Times. Now, the EU Times article, although it was kind of dicey, it also had a Russia Today interview with some member of Russian parliament who was basically saying the same thing. And that was the best source article I could find. And then I kind of stepped back from it anyway and said, you know what? If this is real, there'll be more to back it up later on next week, and I'll just wait a week. But go ahead.
A good point. Like EUTimes.net, which Baldwin referenced and you just referenced, and that's where my brother got it. That sounds like a reputable thing. So I was like, well, consider that source. Is this a trustworthy newspaper? If you go onto their website and click About Us, it says it was established in October of 2009.
Exactly.
And it's a clearinghouse for stuff. So it's
exactly.
You just got to be smart enough. Obviously,
I like to think I am smart enough, and that's why we didn't really cover it on the show today, or we weren't going to cover it unless somebody called in, because I couldn't find really a source on that. I love Chuck Baldwin. I've interviewed him on this show, on the Alex Jones Show. I think he does great work. I support a lot of what he does, but I'm going to wait on this one and see if it's actually true, see if there's going to be more coming out. I'm not saying it's not true, because believe me, there have been bigger stories than this one, but we do have to have some discernment. On the other side, we're going to talk to Ryan, but we're also going to talk to Dave and Eric. It's the InfoWar with Jason Burke, PrisonPlan.tv, InfoWar.